I'm going to explain to you how to get grade 9 in GCSE Maths. I've studied engineering at University of Oxford and also at University of Birmingham. Let's get straight to the matter. We need to start with the papers. You may want to start with the foundational papers. If you're finding that you are struggling with the content, start with the foundational papers, see what areas you're struggling with, record your results on a benchmarking file, and go from there. Once you've recorded your mistakes, we can then work on improving those specific areas. Every time you make a mistake, your job is to eliminate these mistakes. So how do you learn it? There's a few different resources, but my main suggestion would be Maths Genie. I know there's stuff like Corbett Maths and was it Dr. Frost and all of this other stuff, but I think you don't need them. I've seen enough students get grade 9s. I would say all of the rest is fluff. Maths Genie is sufficient in addition to your papers, and you should just stick to that. In terms of learning content and just like the deeper concepts, you may want to refer to stuff like Khan Academy, 3 Blue, 1 Brown. It's a pretty good channel going through the conceptual understanding of maths. Of course, be careful at this stage, especially because they're not GCSE focused. They're just talking about maths in general. You may go off on a tangent, excuse the pun. Another resource you could use obviously is BBC Bite Size. You want to identify what topic you are struggling on and basically go and learn it. Now, specifically for GCSE Maths, what you want to ensure is that you understand mental maths, you understand negative numbers and algebra as a starting point. I'm going to insert a clip from one of my other videos.
So the way I look at it is that you need to master your foundation. The foundation is super important. If you don't have mastery of the foundation, then your overall grade will just come crumbling down.
You can go check out that full video over here. Learn maths in a generalized form. A lot of students tend to learn maths with rules. Oh, if you've got 7 squared times 7 cubed, that gives you 7 to the power of 5. Yes, that rule is correct, but no, you haven't learned it in optimal fashion. If you want to get a grade 9, what you need to understand is the algebraic form of every single rule that you need to learn in maths. Learn it in a generalized manner, and then when it comes to the exam, you can apply it to any question. If you understand it in an algebraic form, you learn it in terms of a to the m times a to the n equals am plus n. Now, regardless of any numbers they give you, even if they give you, instead of numbers, they give you letters, you could still do it. Even if they give you decimals, you could still do it. Even if they give you, I don't know, bananas and donkeys instead, you could still do it. Learn rules in a generalized manner. When you get to the exam situation, you want to apply it in a specific manner to that question. Don't just write the generalized rule, just convert it into the numbers, which is pretty easy. Now, a big part of maths, surprisingly, is actually also memorization, especially for stuff like proofs. For example, you have circle theorem proofs, which you have to memorize. These circle theorem proofs you could work out in the exam, and you might think that's what proofs are there for. You work them out in the exam. Let me break it to you like this. When I was studying engineering at Oxford, obviously it has a lot of maths, and we saw a lot of proofs in there. I had friends who were studying maths at Oxford, and of course they've got even more proofs than us. Sometimes they had proofs that were like 3-4 pages long. That's half your paper. Now imagine working out proofs that are like 3-4 pages long in the exam. And yes, some people do, but the reality is if you're smart, you'll actually learn it beforehand and memorize the proof, and then you go and copy and paste that proof into the exam. Obviously you don't have anywhere near 3 and 4 pages of proofs to learn, but if kids at Oxford are doing this, then why are you not doing this technique? Memorize the proofs beforehand, please. You could work it out in the exam, but
ain't nobody got time for that.
Hopefully, if you can master the foundation papers and you can score like 90% on it, then you want to go onto the old spec higher papers. Depending on like when you're watching this video and if you've got enough time or not. If you don't have enough time, then just go straight to the new spec papers. The reason I say start with the old spec is because there's not enough new spec papers usually. You start with the older spec because they're slightly easier, and you can work from that and then move on to the new spec papers. Hopefully you should be getting better, and you should be recording your results. You should be writing down your improvements that you need to make. And look, once you make a mistake on one topic, let's say you made a mistake on surds, you go and learn that topic inside out, and then you should not make a mistake on that specific type of surds question ever again. And hopefully you get better and better until you start scoring obviously 90%. Once you get to that stage, your job isn't done. What you should be able to do then is be able to complete your paper in about 30 minutes. Now you might say, I've got 1.5 hours. Why is he telling me to do it in 30 minutes? Your old enemy.
Ah, my old enemy.
Silly mistakes. How do we get rid of silly mistakes in maths? So there's something called System 1 and System 2 thinking. System 1 is like fast thinking, things that you do automatically. For example, right now you're probably swiveling on your chair, you're turning the handle of the door, right? These things, they generally happen automatically. You don't need to think about it every single time that, oh, I need to scrunch my fingers and rotate the handle like this and pull my muscle back and so on and so forth. You don't do that. That's because that's your fast thinking brain. Your slow thinking brain, or system 2 thinking, is when I give you novel questions like 368 times 72 and your brain's like, oh, what do I do? Your brain starts working really hard. It works in a slower, more methodical manner. And so what happens is when you get to that 90% in GCSE, you start almost working automatically. It's very efficient that our brain can just like work on automatic mode. But there's one problem with it. This automatic fast system thinking can make a lot of mistakes because it's working so fast. When you get to this stage of grade 9, you may also start making these mistakes. In fact, I know you will. Put a comment down below if you've been making these mistakes. And the way to avoid them is by doing the paper twice. This is not a GCSE example, but in A-level, I literally had a race with my friend about who could finish the paper first. And the person who finished the paper first was to go to the bathroom, put their hand up and say, hey, can I go to the bathroom? And that's, you would signal who won the race. So we knew our papers so well, and we had timed ourselves so well that we could finish our papers in about 30 minutes or so. And top students can do this for GCSE as well. What you would do is you would do the paper once, go take a break, go to the toilet, literally just to get like a fresh mind. You come back and you do the paper all over again without looking at your previous answers. Because you've done them in 2 different occasions now, in the first 30 minutes and maybe in the second 30 minutes. And then you compare them. Oh, I made a silly error here. Oh, I made a silly error there. And that way you can pick up these final few marks. I don't recommend you do this when you're practicing because you don't have enough time. You've got to work efficiently, only do the paper once. But in the real exam, I want you to do it twice. And the only way you'll be able to do it twice is if you've been able to pick up your speed in your practice papers 20 to 30 minutes and finish a whole paper. But that's what you've got to aim for if you're going for a grade 9. I would recommend some resources on top of the papers, the Collins 7 to 9 Maths workbook, and there's a CGP level 8 to 9 workbook. A lot of students don't utilize this. I don't know why, but this is the top resource. What about if you think you're already at a level 9 standard or very high level 8 standard? How do you secure that top grade? Well, in addition to all the points I've mentioned, I think you should also do some advanced level type of questions. You can find these on Maths Genie. What you do is you find topics that you've done in GCSE that you can also find in A-level. They'll be slightly harder, but if you can do them at an A-level standard, then GCSE should be a piece of cake. Ultimately, it's just about becoming comfortable with the topics. Look, there's only a limited amount of maths you can ask, right? If you think back to your primary school days, when you learned 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, and so on and so forth. If you think back to that, how many different ways could they ask you to add a number? They could put different numbers in, but once you've learned the basics of adding, that's it. They are limited to asking you the same type of question all the time, and the same applies in GCSE. Let's get through enough questions you feel comfortable. One point I may add onto this is that work backwards. Generally speaking, the tougher questions are at the back. If they are at the back, then you want to apply your brain when it's at its freshest to the hardest questions. I also know students in the past that have literally missed out the last page because they didn't know it existed. It was on the paper. So if you work from the last page backwards, there's no way you're going to miss question 1, is it? Or you don't time yourself well. But if you're working backwards, then it's easy to time yourself, right? You're like 26, 27, 25, all the way to 1. In terms of your mindset for maths, don't be afraid that, oh, I'm going to mess this up, this, that, and the other, I'm scared. Look, the way you got to think about it, this is your opportunity to show the world how damn good you are. It's an opportunity for you to show off effectively. If you enjoyed the tips on this video, you can check out some of the other videos that I've made on how to get grade 9s, and catch you soon.